students around the world, whether in Southeastern Asia, Middle East, or in the Caribbean region. Those of you who are locked on and joining us via Star FM and also Garifuna Radio. Also, special greetings to the staff of Star. Those of you who are also locked on live via social media on Facebook, via WEFM 99.9 Facebook page. Wherever you are this blessed morning, driving to and from your destination, or simply in the comfort of your home. A pleasant morning to you once again. As usual, the numbers to call and get interactive with us here in studio of WFM are 784-457-9997. That's 784-457-9997. And you can call or send us messages on the WhatsApp number 784-457-9994. That's 784-457-9994. Well, like I said, the usual Friday is basically to round off the week or wrap up the week, so to speak. I know many persons, no doubt, enjoyed the Easter weekend, but you know, everything winding down, and then from Easter we basically move. Starting May and then into June, July, we have Carnival, and many persons, stands, entertainers, performers, and the like, basically gearing up for the season. But this morning, I first of all want to make mention, because I don't think I heard much about it. I made a posting this morning on it. This is coming out of Barbados today. It says Guyana leads CARICOM countries in economic growth for 2023. It says Guyana is expected to record the highest growth among CARICOM member states, with record economic growth of 37.2% this year and increasing to 45.3% next year. Of course, we all know that one of the main sectors, or the major sector propelling this sort of growth, is the oil sector in Guyana. And then it goes on to say St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which has the second highest predicted growth of 6% this year, will record a 5% growth for next year, 2024. And then after you have Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and then Bahamas. So other than Guyana, basically St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Guyana, of course, will record the highest projected growth this year. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, based on IMF projections, will record growth of 6%. And again, kudos to the Minister of Finance, the various stakeholders in the various sectors across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One thing for sure, we've seen a rapid pace in terms of visitations, air arrivals. Of course, we have American Airlines now coming regularly. We have a boom in the construction sector, so to speak. We see massive investments in the hotel sector, especially via Sandals Beaches. You also have Royal Mill on Gwyn. You have the housing sector, and there are many persons in the block making industry, and skilled workers can attest to that. We have the port project that is ongoing. We also have down at the quarry. So many activities, various sectors. Of course, we increase export of produce from sea or marine produce to even root crops. All these things together, no doubt, lead to that 6% projected growth. Of course, last year, we also we recorded growth as well, an enormous amount of growth for last year. In 2021, during the eruptions of La Soufrière, we basically recorded 1% growth or 0.8% growth based on conservative figures, which again was significant because despite having experienced the eruptions of last February, I don't think anyone really and truly expected St. Vincent and Grenadines to record any sort of growth, but nonetheless we did. So all these things together shows that the government continues to engage in good economic management of the economy of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and no doubt once you have this level of economic growth, one will also expect an uptick in the employment figures or a reduction of unemployment, so to speak. But in studio, of course, is Comrade Charles, who have joined us. So as usual, I give him the opportunity to make up his fan base out there, his wide fan base. And then, of course, we continue with the program. Good morning, Charlo.
Pleasant good morning, Foggy. Good morning, my brother. Yes, good to be back in the clean, fresh sound. As usual, I'd just like to big up retired Station Sergeant Jackson, Sergeant Aberdeen, Cara Noel and Sharps, Miss Murphy, Miss Duncan, Miss Kingston Park, Monica, Bristol, Uncle Sam, Bethel, Joanna Chung, Vanny in the US. Spoke with her this morning. She said she will be locked on. Charge up Mason, Stepping Razor, Lavon, and Miss Jack, my two neighbors, and all the other listeners to the great song of WEFM. As usual, it's interactive. You keep it clean and we'll take it from there.
Yes,
back over to you, buddy.
Well, yes, Charlo, like I was saying, based on the IMF figures, St. Vincent and Grenadines for this year is expected to have economic growth of 6%. Again, for me, this is significant because, as I mentioned, you had, other than Guyana, of course, second St. Vincent and Grenadines, and you have Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and then Bahamas. So even there, you see that not many countries, so to speak, across the region have basically superb economic performance. And again, we are experiencing difficulties based on what is happening globally. So I'm not surprised there in respect to other countries that may not record such growth. There are supply chain issues that is ongoing, but because of what we are seeing here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, the different work that is taking place. Charlie, if there's one thing you would know by now, is that many truckers are overjoyed, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
And you normally hear some persons say, well, boy, they wish they have a truck. And then you also hear persons say, well, they're looking to buy a truck. And that is because what they see taking place in the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You also see more persons are getting involved in block making, and that is, of course, to fill the demand in the local economy that is taking place. So all these things, and like I said, once you have economic growth, especially of this magnitude of projected growth of 6%, or even 5%, or even 3% for a smaller economy, you will expect to have an increase in employment. And I just want to remind persons also that the census they're going to start. Census, of course, is to record what's happening national, and it's very important. It gives the government or policymakers an indication as to gaps that need to be filled, and how you adjust policies to suit your overall strategic development goals. So it's very important. And when you see the surveyors or persons coming to ask you questions, it's in your interest and all of our interest that you participate and provide accurate information. But like I said, with this sort of growth, no doubt you expect the increase of employment. We already also see on the go one or two schools. Also, notably, you have the girls' high school where active construction is ongoing. You have the Beckwith Community High School, and I see there's a lot of work done there. You have also at the Blackfish processing facility
Barley.
in Barley, active construction taking place there. So there's a great demand for construction material. And of course, in construction, you have the skilled laborers, the carpenters, the masons, and of course, you have to have those involved in electrical installation and the like. Very important. So that is why I see some persons make the comment that, oh, well, it's mainly the construction sector. But the construction sector is very important, and many countries in the Caribbean and even the world, you often, like, for example, I remember when Biden came into office, he talked about this massive infrastructure plan, in propelling the economy of the United States of America. Because the thing with construction, and for those who are listening, is that there's a ripple effect in the entire economy. I talk about the laborers, you have those who are involved in block making, you have those who are involved in the transportation, the truckers, for example, who have to move aggregate to and from. You have those that are involved in the making or manufacturing of whether windows, you have roofing, those at metal industries, you have kendras and the like. There are so many sectors.
Definitely.
Involved in this sort of thing. And of course, like I said, you have the usual laborers, the skilled laborers that are applying their trade. And of course, they make an income and they either go to course, they pay utility bill, they buy food at the supermarket, and that money circulates in the economy and create more jobs in the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So there's a ripple effect across various sectors in construction. And then, of course, we have Sandals Beaches. We have at Emerald Valley. All these things, they're very significant. And with Sandals Beaches, of course, we saw many young persons receiving the experience in be working and training, being paid for what they do. And in time to come, hopefully next year, the first quarter of next year, you'll see Sandals Beaches open here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and those same persons can return, given the experience, and continue work with the company. And that too, because of the massive investment of money, never mind your MP in particular, basically said that, the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines should not allow Sandals to invest one more red cent into the project. Never mind all of that. Sandals didn't, impede no mind to that and invest over $200 million. There's a whopping amount of money. That is US, that NEC. That is a significant amount of money, and because of that, and where you have over $500 million Eastern Caribbean dollars there, investment is also significant. And of course, there will be a ripple effect in the entire microeconomy of Bookament and surrounding areas. Those who are involved, who have their little restaurants and bars, those who are involved in making crafts, those like Sinos who may have his kayaking service, many persons, those who are involved in hiking. And I see recently, talking about recreation, they have those little mobiles, where you go about and drive and explore.
We call them the wrong tongue taxi.
So there's even those things that give you a particular type of experience here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and they too will benefit. So too CITOs, so too tour guides, so too persons who speak different languages, who are bilingual.
Yes.
And you also have, and I was talking about this recently, and I see it's taken off, and persons are enjoying the experience so far. ATV tour as well, that is now here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, giving you different experience.
Yes,
All
yes.
these entities will benefit because of what is taking place in our local economy.
You speak about the construction industry and how it and the rise here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. But it's not only these big projects you spoke about. In communities, villages, and so on, there are a lot of construction taking place.
Exactly.
And one thing I noticed, because living close to the Fenton area, a lot of trucks going up to the Fenton area and bamboos, for build deckings and so on. So even that, the man by the little man,
Yep.
he can cut the bamboos
Exactly.
and get well, eat the food, as they say. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
eat the food.
Yes, bro.
So even that, these things, no doubt, you will see a rapid uptake, as we have already seen in employment. And of course, once you have increased employment, it talks well also for the overall economy here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. But what is important about it, Charlo, and speaking about all these sectors, is that it dispel what I would say a lot of the rubbish you often hear, that the government isn't doing anything to propel the economy. It dispel that sort of foolishness. It dispel the foolishness that the government isn't looking for ways and means to create employment in the economy of St. Vincent and Grenadines. It also dispel the nonsense that the government, based on what was recently said, I know once upon a time the NP used to say that the government is anti-private sector or anti-foreign investment, but I think that based on the utterances of recent, one can safely say that it's them who are actually against foreign investment and the growth of the private sector here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. You look in Kaliakwa and you see the increase in small retail businesses and also the Rainforest Seafood Company that is established there and creating employment for persons here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So no one, and I'm speaking to all those listening, no one can say that the government isn't providing avenues or opportunities for growth and for employment. To say otherwise would be a blatant lie.
Correct.
To say otherwise would be a blatant lie. It's the same reason why of recent we've seen the increase of air rivals. You have American Airlines. You now have Conviasa.
Yes.
And that's a very important move there, because St. Vincent now serving as transit, and you'll have persons who come here to stay and enjoy what we have to offer. That also goes well for those involved in taxi operation.
Correct.
Even our good friend here, Kingsley, is on the program. That augurs well for him.
Definitely.
And you'll have more persons who will take advantage of the opportunity in going into the taxi business or going into tour operations business, which is growing here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So kudos to those in the Ministry of Finance, kudos to the Minister of Finance. I always say that it's not easy managing the economy of small island developing states with many vulnerabilities.
Not at all.
And you have many shocks out there. Just yesterday, I was having a long conversation on small island vulnerability, including corresponding banks, relations with small island developing states. And I made a point in a discussion yesterday. Sometimes you hear some persons say, well, why can't we have this, or why can't we have that? Let's say, for example, why we can't have maybe KFC in another part of the country, or this or that or the other. But oftentimes we don't think of what I call small island vulnerability, where economic development or decisions that businesses may look at to inform them putting into expansion or just simply establishment. One, of course, is your consumption population. St. Vincent and Grenadines, we're not only small size in terms of geography, land space, but we have a very small population,
Correct.
you know.
Just-
And I made this point to because I was discussing banking relations yesterday, and I said, well, from a business standpoint, some banks, they simply don't see it worthwhile to facilitate transaction for these small populations because there's no real profit, so to speak, to get from it, versus the risk involved. It's the same thing with some businesses. Some businesses will say, well, it's a very small population, like the size of a county in the USA, and it may not make sense for me to expand my franchise because of the very small consumption base that you have. So oftentimes, I often hear the demand that we need this, we need that, we need XYZ, and the other we may need is zip line XYZ. But even looking at a zip line, the small, high energy use, there's a lot of risk. So of course your insurance gonna be high as a developer. And you also have to take into demand, well, how many persons may use this zip line per day for you to actually make a profit? And then you may say, well, given the small consumption size, first of all, you have to look at how many persons are interested also in using it. And then you also have to look at, boy, if it's just a small population that you have there, based on versus the energy costs and the like, insurance, etc. Maybe you then have to look at, well, possibly during peak tourist season, that's when you make your money and what to do. How you basically organize the operations, all these things.
Definitely.
Businesses have to take into consideration. It's just not a matter of, boy, yeah, you need a zip line. Okay, let me get a zip line now. Or you need another franchise. Well, let me get a franchise now. Or this business should expand to other parts of the country. Well, why isn't it done? All these things, population size, our geography, etc., affect our development. The same thing with the international airport. When some persons, talk about how many millions of dollars and all of that. Other countries in the region, they were like Barbados, etc., St. Lucia. They had the benefit of, based on their topography,
yes,
and based on what was going on at the time with war, etc., and you have these little airstrips that were developed for them. It was easier.
much easier.
Our terrain, and the same reason why Dominica, because again, the terrain, it's much difficult, and we have to go it on our own.
Serious.
So topography is another part of it. And topography, your geographic size as well, the main issue that you're mountainous, that affects your development as well. It affects your infrastructure development. And when I talk about infrastructure, I'm talking about roads, I'm talking about utility, internet, phone services, etc. And that is why it may be very costly to do these things, because of, again, your geographic makeup, your own vulnerability. So population, and it's the reason why we're also talking about NIS reform. Same reason. Because again, people are living longer, birth rates are declining, and once you have declining birth rate, you may also have over time a declining workforce, and you have to adjust with NIS reform.
Well, just going back a little.
So all these go into the context of development, overall development.
As I was saying, just going back to the airport, and with the reintroduction of conveys back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the advantage of studying at the University of West Indies, you have your children studying there. You can get a plane, go to Barbados, go to Trinidad, etc. But now, with the emergence of conveys, you can also take a plane. You have children studying in Venezuela or Cuba. Take a plane, hop over, spend a week.
Yes.
And you'll be able to see them. And it wasn't like that.
Because you would know the frustrations many parents have.
Yes, I know.
And that's a very valid point also there. Not only in just saying them, but of course the ability to carry food stuff and the like.
Definitely.
Which I know is one of the main issues that sometimes I hear from both students and parents involved. Again, excellent point. And all these are opportunities that the government is creating for the overall well-being of persons, the overall upliftment of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and the advancement of the economy, the macroeconomy, and even at the micro level of St. Vincent and Grenadines. So while I am not surprised I haven't really seen anything so far in the media about this projected growth for the. I'm not surprised if what I don't know if the IMF said, well, all indications point to maybe a just 0 point something percent or negative growth. I know by mere hours after the IMF made that publication, would have seen that in the media here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I know that for sure. Once it's negative, yeah, man. But this thing with projected 6% growth, and we had growth last year and a projected 5% growth next year, nah, really nothing, man. No buzz there. So, yeah. But again, I, of course, thought that it's important to make mention of it here and to show basically for those who may ask, well, yeah, you talk about projected 6% growth, but where is that growth coming from? Well, obviously, as I mentioned, what we are seeing in construction, and I basically give some projects that are being undertaken from those in terms of the construction or total overhaul of schools, to other projects like Blackfish Processing Facility, Sandals Beaches Hotel construction. You have Royal Mail, you have the port project that is ongoing. You have also rehabilitative work in terms of roads, and Charlie, we're gonna talk more about that.
Definitely.
And also what we see in terms of the productive sector here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, from more export in terms of seafood, employment also generated in fish processing facilities, as well as the expansion or diversification that is ongoing in agriculture and the exportation of crops, root crops out of St. Vincent and Grenadines. But I see we have a call, so let's take this call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Ferdinand. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Robertson.
Hey, pleasant good morning, my brother.
Yes, and good morning. Oh, by the way, Ferdy, I hope the young fella sitting next to you in studio did supply you with fresh bread over the Easter weekend.
We said, well done, well done. I can't believe this. I can't believe this is how I know it. No, man. Charlo?
How are you all this morning?
This man is spreading rumors. Go ahead, Robbie.
Wonder what else have I missed?
But to say no more.
Yeah, man.
Very, very interesting topic. But I would like to add to it.
Yes.
And I'm looking at development of a nation as the focal point. You raise some very interesting factors.
Yes.
Population size, topography, limitation of resources, the need to provide avenues for education, the need, well, that need was fulfilled for an international airport, the need for an improved harbor or wharf, whichever you want to call it, that is being done. The need for improved telecommunications, that is an ongoing process, not just in St. Vincent and Grenadines, but the other islands. The need for improved carriageways, roadways, streets, whatever. But that therein you face a conundrum, because with the increased vehicular traffic on roads that were not constructed to handle that increased weight, and with climate change dumping more water into the soils, the foundations of those roads are being threatened. I just came across a post recently where friends of the other side put up a picture on Facebook showing a picture of a road built by the Romans.
I saw that.
And I am saying, if we want to give blows. Let's do it intelligently. When the Romans constructed roads, there was not that consistent movement
Exactly.
of horse-drawn traffic and human traffic on those roads.
Exactly.
The biggest threat to those roads, and anybody can read up, was from rainfall, snowfall, and all that. Recently at the Traffic Department Awards, and we must give kudos to the various departments of the police force for recognizing their officers. There was this figure on the board in the traffic department, and I asked the officer if this figure is up to date, and he told me no, it would be more. And at that time, the figure was 31,500 plus registered vehicles in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mm-hmm.
Let me repeat that figure. 31,500 plus registered vehicles in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now look at the size of this country. Tell me, any smart person would ask themselves, can our roadways withstand that increased weight? So then the government have to find money to build more roads. And at the same time, find money to continue financing its social programs that history has recorded was not available before 2001, sorry. And tell me if I'm wrong, prior to 2001, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, maybe barring Haiti, was the only country in the Caribbean where schools were still using pit latrines. Yet, we hear people talk about development. Read the history. Read the UN reports. Because the UN agencies send their people in to investigate. And Mr. Ferdinand, tell me if I'm wrong. The government, the Prime Minister and his ministers have to improve their negotiating skills because developing countries like St. Vincent and the Grenadines are no longer seen as third world states.
You're correct.
Because of one, the value and number of vehicles.
Yep.
Two, the value and number of houses.
Mm-hmm.
And three, the improved health system.
Correct.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Correct. We are deemed middle income countries as a middle income
Thank
country.
you.
And therefore do not
do
not meet the criteria in getting grant funding or concessional funding from some agencies.
Thank you. And so when persons say that, and I think it has been said before, the Prime Minister goes out there and begs, something to that effect, they do not know. You must have friends out there. You must have contacts. You must be able to sell what your people are trying to achieve through the programs and policies of the government in order to secure concessional loans at low rates of interest. Look at Venezuela and look at Cuba. And sometime, I can't recall where, someone was discussing it was in a conversation with a very good comrade. I can call his name, Dominic. And we were looking at the Caribbean. And we were looking at the role Venezuela has played in the development of the Caribbean in sports, the role Cuba has played in the development of the Caribbean in many areas. And we were saying, looking at what's happening in Guyana, and if all those restrictions could be removed from Venezuela and Cuba, the Caribbean would be the place for business. Because we would not have to be begging countries outside the Caribbean for oil. The resources of Cuba, Guyana, Venezuela, we add Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago to the mix, would make the Caribbean the ideal place for development. Yes, small countries like St. Vincent and the Grenadines are small. But look at what is happening. You have an international airport, and those who still go about and trying to ridicule the government that flights are not coming in. Let me tell them, when Sandals open, Sandals beaches open, when Maya Suites open, and the hotels at Peter's Hope and Mount Twain get going, you will see an increased number in flights. Because with increased hotel rooms, you now have the capacity
Correct.
to accommodate.
Well,
The private sector.
Well, Robertson, I'm
Go ahead,
glad you made that comment, because you're more informed to speak on this than I am, given that you're heavily involved in sports. But accommodation, from my recollection, is also very important for us in hosting various sporting events here in St. Vincent and Grenadines that people would wish to see.
You are very correct. Cricket, international cricket, for example, it is one player, one room, one official, one room. And the standards of your rooms must be at a certain level. Okay?
Yes.
And if St. Vincent and the Grenadines have to attract, even for example, let's say jazz, those artists call for certain standards. Some of the sponsors call for certain standards of rooms, and you must be able to provide that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think some of them require also whether 4-star or 5-star as well.
More, you're looking at more 5-star,
yes.
And not just that. I think it was Harry Belafonte when he came to St. Lucia Jazz, and he had some people thought were outrageous demands when we looked at the rider. You know, you have to provide this for that person. It is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you provide those rooms, then what goes out? Your country has the capability to accommodate certain classes of businessmen coming through. Like the Holiday Inn, where it is situated, you may very well find a lot of businessmen probably stopping over in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because here there is a hotel not far from the airport, in a literally quiet place, where they could have their meetings. They could overnight for a day or two before probably they go on to Cuba or Europe or where else have you. These things do a lot for your country.
Yes.
Then when you build a new wharf, then you're speaking about those mega class cruise ships that when you add passengers and crew, you're probably looking about 12 to 15,000 persons on a vessel. And those persons do spend. But are we the people preparing ourselves for that? Are we doing what is needed so we do not depend solely on government holding our hands to say, okay, let us develop this natural park. Let us do this. Let us do that. There are many areas that Vincentians can develop in order to attract tourists. But they are, I'm being blunt here, they are too dependent on the cabinet of ministers. I'm saying it. And just before, with your permission, may I just touch on a very important subject, sports.
Sure.
Recently, Carista Games, St. Vincent participated. Some persons are up in arms over the performances of the Vincentian athletes. But as I said on a program over the weekend, that there are many factors that would impact negatively the performance of athletes. You have athletes coming from a warm climate like St. Vincent and the Grenadines and going to the Bahamas where it is much colder. Young athletes who have not experienced those temperatures. So there's a number of factors that will impact. And I'm looking forward to those athletes doing better. Once they are eligible, doing better Grenada next year. Yes. We are intersect. We are inter-primary. But we need greater involvement by the community. You have two young men from Petit Bodel, two outstanding high jumpers. And in that, I speak of AJ Delplesh. Last year, he broke a 40-year-old intermediate school high jump record. And then you have Vero Sam, who just returned from studies in Jamaica. Last year in Jamaica, he broke the national high jump record at the corporate meet. And on April 5th, that's just last week, he broke the national high jump record again at the community colleges meet. Both of them from Petit Bodel, a community that is more known for producing cricketers and to a certain extent footballers. But here we have two young men, outstanding high jumpers. And I'm calling on the community of North Leeward to start a fund, 25 cents, 10 cents, to ensure those two young men get the necessary support, training, proper high jump shoes, whatever, so that they can achieve what they have the potential to, that would make St. Vincent even greater.
But
yes, government will support.
But Robertson, despite what's being said, and I really and truly have to commend our young athletes who basically perform at Carafter Games. I was still pleased,
Yeah, yes. Let me say, like I said, there are many factors, and instead of bashing coaches, and many of the people who go about bashing coaches, you do not see them. And let me put it this way, including some of my own media colleagues, you do not see them at sporting events. But they are quick to bash coaches, athletes, parents, government. I was privileged to be able to witness a number of individual school sports. And the talent I saw out there, Ferdinand, gives you goosebumps. The talent I saw out there. And I am calling on the communities to get more involved in the development of sports.
Yes, because it shows potential. Correct.
At the Emmanuel Jaime Sport, that is the name of the school. Graves is the principal.
JP Eustace Mesbo.
Yeah. I watched a young man run the 1500 and the 8. And I told the PE teacher, I say, hey, if we can get this necessary support for this young man, this is another Carifta medalist in the next 2-3 years. Natural talent, smooth runner. There is this young girl, I think from Union Island. Watch her run at the inter-primary. Tall. And it's just like she does not even put effort into the running. The community, the business places do not wait when the athletes get a medal to come out and jump and wave. Now those athletes need the development because she is growing. She's probably 6 feet already.
Yes.
At primary school.
And a contributor here is Tyra Charles as well.
Yes. But we need Because to run, you need different shoes for different events. High jump is a specialized shoe. For the sprints, you need a particular set of spikes. So if the business places may not be able to give money, at least provide them with the necessary nutrition, and support so that those young athletes can go on. Look at what the netballers achieved in Jamaica, despite limitations, showing Vincentians that it can be done. Once you have administrators that are prepared to think outside the box, once you have administrators that are prepared to put aside what did not bring results, and you have the coaches who are prepared to work hard. And let me say, St. Vincent and the Grenadines have some very good coaches. I have been around. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines have some very good coaches in netball, in cricket, in basketball. But are their skills, are their talent being utilized properly? We need to ask those questions and do not all the time bash government. Because you cannot go to the Prime Minister or the Minister with your hand empty. You must have a proposal to show what you have, what you're prepared to do, how you can use your resources, and what you need, and what you can achieve. But to sit back in your community and just run along with the blame game because you did not do what you were supposed to do will bring us nowhere.
Correct.
It takes more than a community. It takes the parents, school, it takes coaches, administrators, the private sector, and the media. The media is critical in order. Programs like yours where we discuss sports and other programs to create that narrative, bring about that discussion, that dialogue in an intelligent way. So we can say, okay, I will hold hands with Augustine. Augustine will reach across and hold Charlo's hand. Charlo will stretch out and hold somebody's hand. And together we can work and achieve. But if I am saying, Augustine's hand is too dirty, I can't hold his hand, where are we going? We cannot go nowhere. We cannot go nowhere. We have to stop blaming the cabinet of ministers. We have to call on civil servants to get up and serve the public. This is their job. This is their role. Serve the public. We the people pool our resources together, our thoughts, our talents, our experiences. Let us achieve. Let us sacrifice. We have to continue making the sacrifice. The Jamaicans will not wait for Keo Davis to run faster and then start training. They will continue training, so he ain't gonna beat them. We have to support people like Keo Davis, Kyle Lawrence, and Tia Charles, and many others that are coming. We have a good high jumper and long jumper in K2. There are others around. Let us support them in various ways. Let us do that. And let us help the government so that the hotel rooms can be provided in order to host Carifta. Even if you have a stadium, even if you have the best climate, you do not have the hotel rooms, where you going to put 2,000 plus athletes and officials for Carifta?
Some people don't say it that way.
No. No, but you need. Listen now. When St. Lucia hosted Carifta in 2009, St. Lucia had the hotel rooms down in Rodney Bay, because you have to have now look at another thing, transportation. You have to know how you're transporting the athletes And when you transport the athletes, the buses cannot leave and go. The buses have to remain on site in the event of an emergency. It is not cheap. You have to provide the health services. You must have the EMTs on site. Look at the blows Bahamas getting on in a number of, some of the things that can be improved here in terms of the first aid, the medical care. There's areas that need improvement. But they do not use wheelchairs to move athletes from the track. And in the Bahamas, there was no stretchers. They use wheelchairs. And if you think it's a joke, ask the Vincentian netballers. I'm not calling him. One of them got injured, and they tried to move her from the court to the medical room on a wheelchair. And the pain she had, she felt in her leg. Because at that time, for whatever reason, nobody brought out a stretcher. So those little areas, those little things can really put a negative image on your country.
All right, then, comrade.
Bro, have a blessed day, and Mr. Charles, please.
It's a man.
If you did not, bring the young man's bread for him.
Thanks.
All right, Robbie.
Yes, that was surely a mouthful from Robertson there. Touching on a lot of points, going again with what we are discussing here, development. Let's take another call. Good morning, call. Welcome to Shakeup.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Augustine.
Greetings.
Pleasant good
Long
morning.
time in here, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a while, but I keep listening anyway. Let me just ask you for an excuse. I don't want to change the subject. I dislike doing that, but I believe I should on this occasion, and commend the person, the gentleman Robinson, I think his name is.
Yes,
correct.
I have been listening to him on the air for quite a while. He's not on permanently, but once in a while he comes on. I heard him on an earlier program this morning with Crystal. I'm hearing him now again. I've heard, like I said, over the years, briefly, little snippets here and there, But I think this gentleman is first class, in my opinion. He knows the subject and he speaks well. He's fluent, And if you can get him on your show a bit more frequently as a guest, or if anybody else on those stations can get him on, I think it will do us good. So I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Robinson and to you for having him, and to you in particular for what you keep doing, and for ex-Commissioner Charlo.
Thank you, man.
Robert Sagan, one up on the shoulder,
No,
man. Yes, man. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, man.
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Thanks for your contribution, my brother.
Yes. Like I said, there were some excellent points raised by Robertson, and I'm very happy that he went in depth in sports in particular, because Charlo, and I'm quite sure many persons listening, heard, well, when they hear Grenada won the bid in hosting the next games, they say, well, what happened to St. Vincent? They say, I saw some of the comments, but sometimes I just read and I ignore. I just make my notes.
Very interesting.
And they said, well, how we say he's the world boss, but now you can't secure character. But again, when you sit and you reason, it's the same thing some persons said, well, why we don't have international cricket here? Look, Robinson made the point. Imagine this, and I think Press Secretary Marshall even made mention, because we have cricket going on and getting persons to prepare the Airbnb guest houses and the like. A very important factor in hosting any sort of regional or international games of any kind is accommodation.
Accommodation, very important.
And as you heard, there are sometimes specifications. It's either 4-star or 5-star, nothing lower. That's a fact. And therefore, in doing that, you have to make sure that you have the amount of rooms needed to accommodate that sort of. It's not just the sporting venue. And he even went on to mention it's not just only accommodation, but you also have to look at transportation.
Yes.
Because they have to move from the time persons landing at the airport, you have to move them to the respective hotel, and from the hotel, you have to move them to the sporting venue and back. Very important. So I hope that persons who listened to Robert's contribution can now appreciate the fact of the policy of the government in expansion of rooms on mainland St. Vincent. I hope persons can now take appreciation as to when you hear the NDP say, well, why or not we had to borrow $50 million from the government and people of Taiwan? Or why are we engaged in building of hotels? All this is important for, again, what the Prime Minister has always said, the modernization of our economy, being competitive and many-sided.
Correct.
Very important because, again, it is not just having sporting events. You have to think about where are they going to stay? How are we going to move them? How are we going to accommodate them? X, Y, Z, and the other.
Right on point.
There's another thing. I don't know how many persons actually looked at the track in Bahamas. Jalo, you got to look at it?
I did.
All right. I said, wow. The Bahamas, where the peg is 1-1. 1 US, 1 Bahamian. 1-1. And actually, some Bahamians actually see themselves as more closer to the United States and to the Caribbean.
Yes.
How? I said, when the government built the athletics track in Diamond, well, I remember the leader of the opposition said, well, all the government is engaged in is building shiny, pretty objects. That is what he referred the athletics track at. And we saw recently, various games there into school and the like, and persons breaking records, persons training, etc.
And he was present at some.
Yeah. And he also, of course, there's photo ops involved. He went out there and present at some of the activities, if not all of them. But when I looked at the chat for Carifta Games in Bahamas, I said, well, I wonder if the opposition here see that as a shiny object or nothing of class, because they make it seem as though the one out they can't use.
Correct.
That it's anything less than a track.
Mm-hmm.
So again, all this, what the government is doing, like I said, the track is being built in phase. I think they're doing the facilities now, bathroom, etc. And it's being done in different phases. From there, you have parking facility, you have the overheads, etc., the bleachers, etc. All that's being done in phases. That we appreciate what the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is doing. When you hear some only talk about the selling of passports, what you hear from the Unity Labour Party government is actually how are we going to build a sustainable economy?
Lift SPG higher.
Because while you have more, and I see someone in the comments said here that you build it, you basically build the hotels and the vacationers will come. That's also very sick. It's just as you build the airport and we see airlines are coming, we see American Airlines coming frequently, daily in the week, and more to come. We see Conviasis coming. It's the same thing with the hotels. And that is what we've been saying now. That is also something that the airline companies look at.
Correct.
Your room stock on the island. It's the same thing that those organizing the various games will look at. Your ability to accommodate the X amount of players that will participate in whether Carifta games, in whether cricket games, in whether football games, because room stock is very important. Similarly to, that is why we have different policy now addressing transportation. We're encouraging persons also to get involved in tools because it is very important in addressing these very issues in building a modern competitive economy. You don't hear that sort of discussion from the opposition. You hear the discussion from the Unity Labour Party because we are interested in sustainable development. And I'm very glad and appreciative of the points that Robertson highlighted here.
Indeed.
On the program. But we take a break, pay some bills, and then resume with Shakeup for the program.
Yes.
99.9 WEFM.
General Hardware still has the best prices on steel, lumber, and plywood. So go on, compare prices, and If by chance you find a better price, no stress. Just talk to the General and they will beat that price plus give you special priority delivery. Yes, General Hardware offers free island-wide delivery on most purchases, so you never have to worry about getting your goods on site on time. Plus, shopping at General Hardware is a pleasant experience with friendly, knowledgeable staff always ready to serve. What more could you wish for, huh? So come to General Hardware for proper service, lowest prices, free delivery, and see why nobody beats the General. Nobody.
Introducing the new and exciting line of refreshingly healthy drinks. Look for
the Blue Waters brand.
Available right now at your leading grocery stores and supermarkets.
Blue Waters juice drink.
In sparkling cran apple, cran grape, or cran lime.
Blue Waters also produce a line of cranberry-infused beverages with lime, apple, grape, and more.
There's also bottled water in various sizes. Also, look for the juice drinks from Blue Waters in orange, pink grapefruit, apple, and grape.
Blue Waters brand.
Local agents log enterprises. Call us today at telephone number 784-456-2936. Located in Lower Middle Street, Rose Place, Kingstown.
That could have been you. An accident that could have been avoided because your tires had almost no grip on the road. Safety is a factor that should never be overlooked when it comes to your car or whatever you drive. SVG Tire Sales and Services in Balls Avenue and in Arnisvale carries a wide selection of quality new tires to fit any car, truck, minibus, or SUV so you can experience a comfortable and safe commute every time. We are agents for the world's most reliable brands on and off the road, including Kenda Tires, the king of the mountain, Cooper Tires, king of the road and track, Ostone, the king of the outback, and High Fly, the king of the Asian highway. We also carry new tires for light or heavy-duty trucks from MRF, High Fly, and Linglong. A reliable set of new tires keep you, your passengers, and your payload always in the safe lane. So when you need quality tires with reliability at 100%, choose SVG Tire Sales and Services in Kingstown, 457-1467, or in Arnisvale, 456-6444. SVG Tire Sales and Services. Performance and reliability proven when the rubber meets the road.
Shop at Lanes where you come first. For value and quality you can trust. Lanes. For home hardware, fashion and more. The best prices at every store. A warm fancy welcome is waiting for you. At Lanes, your family store for value.
At Lynch Caribbean, yes, we offer comprehensive insurance solutions and broking, but we are more than an insurance broker. Drill down to your core business strategy. We keep a pulse on risk to keep your operations healthy.
On your mark, get set.
Along the way, helping you to drive competitive advantages. At Lynch Caribbean, we have your back. Contact us today for insurance solutions, strategic risk advisory, and more. Call 453-3300. Email info@lynchcaribbean.com or visit our office in Beachmont, Kingstown. Follow Lynch Caribbean SVG on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or visit www.lynchcaribbean.com.
WEFM 99.9, home of quality programming. A source of reliable news and information. Home of legendary voices and music. WEFM 99.9, the clean, fresh sound. Visit us online at www.999wefm.com or call 457-9994. WEFM 99.9, the clean, fresh sound.
99.9 and so Los Angeles and the Grenadines. WEFM is SVG.
So yes, we are back in studio of WEFM. I am your host, Augustine Ferdinand, and of course in studio is none other than good comrade and friend, Mr. Michael Charles, many refer to him as Commissioner Charles. But remember the numbers to call and interact with us are 784-457-9997. That's 784-457-9997. And you can call or send us messages on the WhatsApp number 784-457-9994. That's 784-457-9994. So yes, Shallow, we talked about development, the mere fact that St. Vincent and the Grenadines, based on IMF projections, will record a projected growth of 6% this year, which is the second highest in the Caribbean region, that is the second highest in the Caribbean region. And we were also talking about some of the limitations, vulnerabilities that small island developing states experience. But also, we heard from the contribution of Henry, speaking about sports development, even while we were talking, the mere fact that no doubt the synthetic track at Diamond is helping our athletes in basically trying to meet their full potential. And I have no doubt more of that will continue. But also, again, some of the limitations as to why we can't host certain events here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, sporting events. That is because, again, limited accommodation, limited capacity in terms of our transportation sector and the like. And what we are seeing here by the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines in helping to build the economy, in helping to meet some of those criteria by expansion of rooms, room stock, hotels, also providing incentives so that persons in the transportation sector can get involved. And we are seeing also where even in terms of tourism authority, where they're doing their part in getting more persons get involved in tour operation here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the own government incentive and concessions on big buses as well, very important. And even the recent announcement, by the Prime Minister, where buses looking to operate at certain hours,
Yes.
in the evening, going to the morning, where there's 100% concession, that policy which the government is looking to basically get going. All these things are important in satisfying these criteria and basically making us very competitive as well.
Correct.
And that is why, again, the Unity Labour Party is the one with the plans. But
even though as the government attempt to put these initiatives in place, these incentives, it have people. And I saw some back and forth with a young lady on Facebook in terms of the 100% duty-free concession on these buses in respect of the hours it will work. And she plainly said that it will not work.
Yeah, I saw some of those comments.
Well, someone asked her to okay, you come up with an idea. She didn't come up with any, but continue to say it will not work.
Yeah.
It could not work.
Yeah, I saw some of those comments.
It's amazing.
One of the things, when I saw those unfortunate comments, I said, well, on one hand, we said that the reason why St. Vincent don't have any nightlife, part of it is because of the transportation sector, in that you don't have reliable transportation. Persons, you may have events happening at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That's when they realistically start.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things persons would wonder, well, how am I going to reach home? They either reach out to a friend, arrange early. Well, here now you have to pick me up when the event done, whether 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Other than that, some of them, they're gonna stay home because they don't have any transportation, so to speak. Some of them live in villages,
yes,
for example. There are those who may say, well, that is why taxis are available. But again, given the time and everything, taxis more money than what they would do in catching a van.
Mm.
So when I saw some of those comments, I'm like, well, wow. And it goes to this whole thing, you do it damned, you don't, you still damned. Yeah. And that is why I'm often of the opinion, do it anyways. Because, but it addresses some of those serious issues, reliable transportation. And as the Prime Minister made mention that these very buses, of course, because of the concession that they get, you therefore can't allow them to compete with the vans that, you don't have no concessions and all of that during the day. But what they can do, get involved in tour operation.
Correct.
Just as they have those other tours, land tours and the like. So again, I embrace it because it also helps in making transportation more reliable. I think it goes well also for the economy, transportation economy, for various events that may have, and of course, you have many things happening throughout this year. So let us, give the officials a chance to fine tune the thing. Of course, they're gonna have special plates and the like, but all of that they will fine tune and let us just wish you the very best.
Exactly.
Just wish you the very best. But Charlie, there's coming down on time. There's another discussion I want to bring up. Of course, we had Parliament recently, where we had the authorization of various loans, and one of the things that was quite interesting, Charlo, out of the debate was one statement from the MP of East Kingston. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, where he said on April 4th, this is when we had Parliament.
Yes.
It said that the Honorable Fitz Bramble, parliamentary representative for East Kingston, in a casual and offhand manner, stated that the NDP has always supported the relations with Taiwan and that it does not intend to sever ties, diplomatic relations with Taiwan. That was MP Fitzbramble's, well, maybe it's his position. This is the part that have me mixed up. Because him speaking like that, you're the member of the NDP, you're a representative, you may then say, well, maybe it's an NDP position. But then, later on, you have the opposition leader, who is also the president of the NDP, basically saying that there has been no shift in policy. And that, there's no change in the NDP's one China policy. But I remember, I don't know if you could pull it up for persons to see. NDP's, go back on the second one. Right. And there we have it. The NDP's foreign policy review, and persons, of course, looking online, you can sit and read it for yourself. And it says here, NDP's foreign policy review. Now, one of the things I saw, there are those who say, well, the NDP cannot have a policy because they're not in government. And theoretically, they're correct. If you're not in government, you can't really set any policy. But when you're in opposition, remember, political parties, they provide manifestos.
Yes.
And the ideas within the manifestos are basically positions taken by political parties ensuring that this is what we will do
when we get
if elected into government.
Correct. Yeah.
And the NDP, I remember in 2016, it says here, 23rd of August 2016, NDP's official response. NDP Foreign Policy Review, and it goes on to say that in keeping with our mission and responsibility as a mature public service institution dedicated to good governance and the like, it says that a number of recent and ongoing developments for international trade, global finance, immigration, etc., United Kingdom's decision to leave the EU, etc., etc. The NDP is observing these developments for their potential effects on St. Vincent and Grenadines and the wider Caribbean. It therefore goes on to say, in this regard, fully cognizant of the ever-evolving symmetry of international affairs and the principal responsibility and obligation of our party, in or out of government, to diligently pursue and protect the best strategic interests of our country. And this is where it says, I hereby formally announce that the New Democratic Party of St. Vincent and Grenadines, as of today's date, August 23rd, 2016, has taken the decision to recognize the United Nations accepted norm of a one China policy. Our party, under my leadership, has evolved to the worldview that is embraced by almost every country in the region and indeed the world. The One China policy will be a key international relations platform of our party and will move to change from the province to Beijing when we form the next government. And of course, this was under the then president of the NDP and opposition leader at the time, Honorable Adam Eustace. Now, person, Mr. Walino, Ferdinand, that was during Mr. Eustace. No, leave it up so persons can read. Me say, well, Mr. Ferdinand, this was under Mr. Eustace's tenure, and therefore you have a new president of the NDP and a new opposition leader. No, but I want to play this recording so that persons can remember. Again, I make these things up. These are here recorded. This was the position again, and this is Mr. Dr. Friday, the president of the NDP, and his stance.
Still, this One China policy, are you still holding on to what Mr. Eustace's policy was to change to China? Have you made up your mind as yet? Or what's the situation?
Mr. Eustace didn't have a policy. The NDP had a policy.
Right.
Mr. Eustace was the leader of the party when we declared.
So he led the party into that policy.
He was the leader of the party at the time we adopted that policy, but that's a policy that the party adopted. So and we have maintained that position. The central committee of our party has endorsed that position. So we that's the position.
So you're still holding on that when you become
when you talk about us holding on, you ask me what our policy is. That is our policy.
Right. Okay.
Good. So you get that clear now. So even though the policy shift was done while Mr. Eustace was the president of the NDP and then opposition leader, you heard the current leader of the opposition say that, look, that wasn't a Eustace policy. That was a party policy, and the central executive of the party embraced that policy. Where in the release it says what? That our international relations stance is in keeping with all our traditional friends, the United States, Canada, Europe, and most of Latin America. The People's Republic of China is indeed a major international player, and the New Democratic Party looks forward to close relations with its party and government. Now, again, the confusing part. Fitz Bramble on April 4th of this year, MP for East Kingston said that the NDP has always supported relations with Taiwan.
Right.
False. And that it does not intend to sever diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Again, false. I don't know if the man is just, because just in Parliament also, he said that the relations were formally established with the people of Taiwan during the NDP's time, which again was also false.
Yes.
I never meet a guy who could tell so much lies at one given time. Come on, people in East Kingston, man. No. Come on, man. Really? So, this is the NDP now. But it goes deeper. There seriously is some sort of rift that is going on in the NDP. Because you can't tell me that one man can stand up and say, look, this is what we're going to do. But then the leader and president of the NDP said, on April 6th of this year, that there is no change in the NDP's One China policy, and he goes on to say, well, Bramble, I hope you get this one. And if there was any such change, the announcement would come from him as the president of the NDP. You know, Chalo, I don't know if you remember or those listening remember when I said here on this program, those in the NDP, they really don't want Fridays later, you know. I don't know if I remember when I said that.
Yes.
I mean, the first indication to me, which was very clear, is during COVID time when the leader of the opposition said, well, for him as an example, in showing the need for the boot in parliament to protect and all protect MPs, you know, from COVID, etc., is basically him showing leadership and standing behind the booth and make his presentation. And then the rest and them basically say, well, you know, you could do that. But I am not doing that. I don't know what they did. They said it clear. They're standing behind the booth. And they left. That was the first indication. Where clearly the leader of the opposition has no sort of authority or influence over none of them in parliament. But this other one, where you're basically usurping the man authority, that is what it is, you know. Usurping the man authority in saying that you will not sever ties, and now the leader of the opposition have to come out and say any such announcement will have to come from him as president. Now, the reason why I brought this up is that it's actually quite important, because, and you can move that now. I believe Pursue's already read it online as well. Is that this has severe impact on us as a nation state. Because as the leader of the opposition said, there is no shift in the policy. As much as Bramble and I even think Sinclair Leacock also made mention of it. As much as they may want to see a shift, as much as Sir James Mitchell, etc., Friday said there's no shift. But again, we I mean, I understand why he's between a rock and a hard place. The NDP knows that the majority of Vincentians don't want St. Vincent and the Grenadines to establish ties and relations with the Republic of China, the Communist Republic of China. They know that. Hey, Charlo, they know that.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, they can't turn down the money factor. It's a hell of a thing, huh? It's a hell of a thing. It's a conundrum. The money is sweet. And whenever you think about shifting the policy, think about the money. And the money, the gravity force of the money is stronger than the people's interests. That is what's happening here, you know. So while on one hand, there are his colleagues who may want to see the shift, on the other hand, the gravity of the money pulling. And that's what's happening here. And that is why we have to be very careful. And why it's important for all of us to go to the polls. We can't stay home. We can't do that. Because decisions, as little as they may be, have big impact.
Yes.
The government and people of Taiwan announced of funding 10 additional scholarships. We have more Vincentians studying in Taiwan. You have to therefore think about what then happens if you sever ties with Taiwan. What happens to our students studying in Taiwan? I remember when that question was posed, the leader of the opposition said, well, you know, they'll have the option of studying in China. You know, the students don't want to go to China, and there are various reasons for that. They don't. And then you can't transfer credits to some Chinese university. The other question now, and this is even more important now, as it was announced recently that, and I see some people, you know, trying to make a whole big deal of this, where basically we have over 500 Eastern Caribbean dollars in debt, thereabout, or well, actually 477 Eastern Caribbean dollars in debt to the Republican people of Taiwan from September, and overall 500 and something million Eastern Caribbean dollars. But it's very important in what we're spending these monies on. There's something called debt. The word debt itself, DEBT, is not so much a bad word, you know, because in economics, it will show you that debt is good once you're spending the money on things that you can have significant return.
Yes.
It's very important as that. We all borrow money. Even, as a matter of fact, many rich people borrow money. As a matter of fact, they may be the biggest borrowers of money. Mm-hmm. Rich borrow money because they know that debt isn't so much a bad thing once you can use that debt for a productive purpose where you can, of course, multiply on your money. So, where are we spending these monies? $62 million US towards port project. That's significant for growth potential for trade, for employment. We have US $20 million on modern parliament and court complex, construction jobs, activity in terms of trucking industry as well. We cannot deny that we do need a modern parliament and a modern court. Hello. Then we have, like I mentioned before, $50 million on Marriott Hotel. We need more rooms. We talked about that. Create more jobs. Again, ripple effect in terms of construction sector. Very significant. We have $45 million for road rehabilitation. People talking about roads. And this is why I sometimes have a thing where, we say we need roads fixed. We need more roads. But now government looking to borrow money. You have a problem with that? Don't think that the little bit of money you're paying for licensing can actually build and repair all the roads in this country. Trust me, don't be mistaken by that. It can't. So you have to borrow money for that. And of course, you can have ripple effect with this road rehabilitation for trade, for the transportation sector, and also for jobs. So there's a ripple effect in terms of the overall economy with borrowing these monies. But very important, that's significant. If you are to sever ties with the government and people of Taiwan, as the leader of the opposition said that NDP's one China policy remains firm, then offhand, and I remember this happened in Grenada, and persons can check it out, when the government and people of Taiwan lent the Grenadian government some monies to basically upgrade Morris Bishop International. That was a whole court case. And the Grenadian authorities, basically, the government and people of Taiwan tell them they have to repay them. I remember that case very well. Now, $500 and something million. The NDP would have to think upfront of repaying that money, Now, the question may be, well, they could ask the Chinese friends to give them a loan, but we all know how Chinese loan come. I don't know how many persons reach Shylock, the merchant of Venice. To me, China offering loan is like Shylock, and trust me, we'll need every pound of flesh. So these are some of the things that we have to think about. Again, $10 million towards scholarships, more scholarship opportunities for persons. That talks well and good. We've had cordial and strong friendship and relationship with the government and people of Taiwan, and I don't think there's need for that to change. But if you want the NDP way, trust me, you can only look in the news and see how many ports that Chinese own, whether airport or seaport, and roads. Even Sir James Mitchell warned about the one China policy by the NDP.